Laurie from To the Trade, and I have Nile with me. Hi, Nile.
Hi.
And we have a great guest today. I mean, you've done it all. You have an amazing design practice, and now you're doing
Mm.
coaching. You have an MBA. Let's talk to you, Katie. Tell us a little about yourself.
That is like so humbling. I'm like, who is that person? Who are we
I
talking
know,
to?
isn't it
Oh.
crazy? I always feel the same way when people describe me. I'm like, looking around. Who?
Yeah, I know, totally. I mean, I guess this is how you get to your mid 40s, but like, it's like, oh, yeah,
Right.
I guess we have done a few things. We've been around the block of life a few times. Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
multi-million
fun.
dollar business, in
Yeah.
design, and now bringing that knowledge out to other designers is not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Aw, you're kind. Yeah, I love design. I love design passionately, and I love helping other designers succeed. It's my favorite thing about getting to middle age is giving back and helping other people get their firms where they want them to be, whether that's profits, whether that's positioning them for selling them or retirement or growing because now my kids are out of the house. It's fun. The designers I encounter are in all walks of life. And getting to be a part of that journey is such a privilege, a complete privilege. It's kind of funny. I stumbled into it because I taught undergrad and graduate courses for the better part of 20 years. And then hashtag COVID, right? And our firm grew 15x in a single year. And I just had to stop teaching in order to make sure that our clients were taken care of. We had the right people in the right seats on our bus. And then once that got put in order, we had the processes in place. I went, gosh, I so miss teaching and I miss working with people and opening their eyes or helping them see something or providing a different perspective. And it was our operations manager at the time. She's like, why don't you go into teaching in our career? And it was another coach who said, I want you to come coach for me. And I said, should I? And she goes, if you don't coach for me, you just should go coach for yourself, which was so incredibly kind. And it just got the wheels turning. And so we launched the podcast, which I'm so excited you're going to be on. It's going to be great. We're going to talk tariffs. Oh my gosh, that's a thing.
I know. I already have some stories.
Oh, yay. I'm here for that. I'm
Yay.
so here for that. And so, yeah, that's what got me started down the path of coaching is taking that undergraduate and graduate teaching experience in business and saying, let's apply it to our industry. Let's give back and let's come alongside. Because I see so many designers who are doing such great things and they just need a tweak here or a change up there or a process for this. And it's a game changer that lets them, as we were saying, get back to doing what they love, which is designing.
Right, right. And I think that, when we think about those businesses and maybe even the missing link of having the business education within the design programs, well, some of them are better than others, but fundamentally we have a lot of, and honestly, things change year to year and legalities. And so just staying apprised of those types of things and building a business that has strength. There are some sort of inherent, I think, issues right now within the interior design industry. What are your thoughts on, just even as basic as naming the businesses after your own self to make it have a succession plan to be able to sell it?
That is such a great point. There is a great book out that has a title along the lines of, and I'm not going to get it dead on, but The Power of You and Your Name, and it should be on everything. That is a huge problem if you do go to sell it because your clients are married to you. They're married to your name. They're married to
also growing
that
it
brand.
too. I mean, that's the other part of it is growing it. You get a secondary designer and they don't really not always want to work with a secondary designer. They want to work with you. You're the name,
Nobody wants the B team, right?
Right.
And just out of default, if that's not your name on the letterhead, then they're going, I'm getting the B team. How do I get out of that? Yeah, it's something interesting in our industry because we do that. It's a lot like, I was reference law firms, but they always name it. And then what happens when one of the partners leaves or dies, or how do we change that? It's a really dicey situation. That's how come we did name back in the day when I named the firm ColorWorks. It was the idea we're based on color and it works. And it was literally that basic with the intent of one day I will either sell or I have two daughters who are now 8 and 10. One of which is madly in love with turtles and the other of which is madly in love with orcas. So it's not looking good for me is the reality of that. But we're still only 8 and 10. So we're going to go with it. But yeah, I mean, if they want to come alongside and take it someday, it does position it for success. I think what's really hard is as designers, we're very passionate people and we want to rope ourselves into our business. And there's a degree of separation that is actually imperative and empowering. When we can step outside and away from that because it's not maybe our name on the shingle, so to speak, or the sign out front, when it is not all reliant on us, we can look at it a little bit more objectively and say, what is working? What is not working? This is not a reflection of my character or who I am or my capability. But now I can make some good business decisions, whether that's scaling up or scaling down your business, depending on what life stage you're at, positioning it for sale. Maybe you just want to shutter the doors and sell the inventory. I was just talking with a client about that this week, a coaching client.
Wait,
She's like, I
so
just want to sell it as a batch.
I just have a quick question though, because I'm just curious.
Yeah.
How do you then, I guess, reconcile fashion industry with the name thing? Because I mean, everybody knows Ralph Lauren. I mean, he's made a name for himself. And there's Donna Karan, there's Givenchy. So how do you, if you don't put your name on it, if you think that's a bad idea or not the greatest idea, how do we reconcile what the fashion industry does?
I love that. I think what you're wearing is way different than trusting someone to design your home. I think there's a different level of intimacy and longevity that comes with bringing someone into your home, right? And so
It's also the
I would
scale
argue,
of you're
I
building a
think
clothing line. It's
I
a
would,
scaled business model to begin with. And a designer's not always a scale. In fact, I would say the majority of design businesses are localized. They're right in their own neighborhood.
very,
And so they're not going to be a nationwide or worldwide name. They're a local business, and it's just like your local carpenter or your local, electrician. That's more the path. And some of those are named by as the name too. I'm not saying like it's,
Mhm,
Johnson's and Sons or you know what I mean?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
but you more likely are to see a contractor, an electrician company, the people that you're working with don't always have their name shingle, correct?
It's about storytelling though. I think fashion
Yeah.
design does a better
yeah.
job at storytelling because I ran across
Mm.
an artist the other day that's down in Savannah, and she's not nationally known. I just found her through somebody else on TikTok. She doesn't have a huge following, and her business is called, I don't even remember, it's like Winnie something, but neither name is attached to her. And when I went to her site, the very first thing she talks about is it's named after her grandfather, whose nickname
Yeah.
was Winnie, and the second name I believe is his last name. And the story that she told, and he was her favorite person in the world. And the story that
Mm.
she told roped me in, and so and it all made sense to me. So I just wonder if we just have to do a better job at telling the story as
It
It's
designers.
could
funny.
be. It could be, right?
I just wonder.
It could be. I mean, I just had a coaching client where went through that. We renamed her business, and it was actually named after her mother's mother, who was an interior designer. So we took her grandmother's maiden name and married it with her best friend's last name. And those two became the new names, Baker White Design.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Love that.
And it embodies what her grandmother was doing, which was interior design long before it was a thing. And so now, to your point, Nile, which is a great one, now we have a story to tell. We have a legacy that we're building, and there's a confidence factor. People have to have a reason to buy into any brand, whether you're in love with the Clydesdales of Budweiser, right?
Yep.
Or the polar bears of Coca-Cola, or the
Right.
best brands tell a story and paint a picture. And I think that picture becomes very one-dimensional and flat if it's based strictly on the founder. And there's nowhere to go or grow out of that, which becomes a real challenge when you're not 31, you're 61, and you're saying, how do we wind this down? Or what's the next chapter look like without me in the driver's seat?
Yeah. No,
I have
I get that.
what do you think about, and I know this is a kind of a little topic, but what do you think about also,
I love off
and
topic.
this is coming because I get some of these emails, and lately I've
Yeah.
been getting more of businesses
Yeah.
not doing so. So is there also a factor that's protecting yourself, your own mental health, in not naming the business after yourself because you're not tied to the success or failure of that business emotionally?
I love that. And I think it's totally true. It's the one degree of separation, not to say you don't have ownership and you feel empowered, but it's not a part of your identity. If your business is a part of your identity, it is dysfunctional. We should be able to step
Ooh,
away.
that's a good line. Like I
So,
really think we need to remember that.
so story time. So story time, because my business was named something else in the beginning, and I did
Oh,
like
do
this
it.
event.
Yeah.
I did this event in New York. It was Dining by Design, and so it was like preview night for designers. And this gentleman came over, and he was like, he couldn't understand. He was like, "Oh, so are you this business, or is she this?" Because it was myself and my colleague, and we choose our business. I said, "No, I'm this business, and she's." And so then I started explaining, and he was like, I said, the reason behind my business. And he was like, "Stop, I'm bored." He's like, "I'm just
Ooh,
bored already." And
That's so New York.
yeah, so New York.
it's so
And
New York, so rude.
I appreciated it though, because he said, "Listen, your name is Nile Johnson. Your first name is very unique. Your last name is very common. Why isn't your business named after you? You should put your name on everything." And he's like, "I'm telling you that if we're in an elevator and you're talking to me about why your business is named this, like I'm in my office. I've gotten off. Like I don't even want your business card. Like it's just too much." He was like, "You just need to name it Nile Johnson." It's like, that's
But
what it needs
you
to be
just
named.
tell us 2 seconds ago about a story that was not their name, and you were drawn in because of the story
I really
too.
was. I truly was.
Thank you,
But
Lori. I was like, how do we delicately
evident,
explain that? Yeah.
but evidently she did a better job storytelling than I did.
So I think
Maybe,
that's the
maybe.
key.
And your name is really cool. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
I mean,
You have a cool
there's
name.
me
Although people get it
me,
wrong sometimes. People call you Niles a lot.
well, I think that's just ignorance. And I just think that's laziness, but that's a whole other topic. Me personally, there's no amount of convincing you to get me to take my name off my business. I'm just not. I work
No,
too
no,
hard.
no.
I guess my questions are for other people out there who are considering it. Like,
Yeah.
I know people who are wavering. They're like, "Well, I don't know. Should should I take my name off? Should I call it something else? Like, what would be the?" And so I thought about it from both sides. Like, well, fashion, because we've seen where designers have passed away, and it's still
Mhm.
called what that designer was. But I think, to your point, that fashion's on a national level versus a local level makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way.
So,
Designers
and I
are,
want to, if we're asking the tough questions, Nile without an S, um, I'm curious though, like now that you have your business named after you, how does that position you? Do you ever want to sell your business? Do you ever want to scale down
no,
your business? Do you ever want to? So, what is your, like, if it's named after you, are you going to take the fashion house model and bequeath it to someone else, even if
no.
you're not there? Or like, how do you handle that on the back end of the lifespan of you being at your business?
Well, 'cause I feel like when I'm done, it's done, because I don't think that
You're just going to
anybody
close the doors.
yeah, because I don't think anybody else can do it the way that I do it. So there would be no Nile Johnson interior design without Nile Johnson. So
Huh.
you can't have it without me. So I would, it never even makes sense for me to sell. I just don't even understand. This is just me personally. I don't even understand
Yep, yep.
how you sell your interior design business, because
Hmm.
whether it's 5%, 2%, or 3%, there's a percentage of that is your creativity. And how do you
Sure.
give that? How do you sell that? You can't. And so there's going to be pieces of that are not going to move with the sale. And so you're not getting a full sale. You're not getting 100% of the business. You might get 97, you might get 98, you might get 90, you might get 80, depending on who's buying it and how much they're able to extract from who they purchased it from. And so I just think
Hmm.
that
I just think but
I would
I
not
will
want to
just
sell it.
say, like, imagine you starting your business again today.
Mhm.
If you were able to have 90% or 75% of being there, like having success, like you have to bring your certain creativity. So the brand's going to change a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
you have good process, you have good business, you have a solid book of clients that are repeat clients that are coming through the door. You have a reputation in your community. You have collaborative partners. You've built up the system, the business. You don't think that's an asset that should be
I guess it
that
depends
we
on
should be able to sell?
I guess it depends on who you are, because if you walk through the door with all of that, what do you learn? Like if I'm handing you all of this, what do you learn? Like if the processes are already in place, if all of that's, I mean, that's great. That's great. But if I'm starting my business, and from scratch, and somebody's handing me this, what am I What am I learning? Where have I grown in business? What
Well,
am I?
it's a shortcut, right? I mean, it's the
Yeah,
shortcut of
to
not
me it
having
is to go through
to
all of
go
that.
through all of that.
And I mean, I
And
guess it
hopefully
depends.
we have built Nile up so Nile has product lines and Nile has books and Nile has I mean, there's more that's
Yeah.
of what a person might be selling in the brand because you have spent so much time building it and working on it
Yeah,
and developing it and getting it perfect
yeah,
and having systems that really work. And someone else, you're saving them the headache of having to reinvent all of that. I mean, isn't that what you would think?
I totally think that's it. I mean, the idea is
Yeah.
they're buying the processes, they're buying the systems, they're buying the accounting, they're buying the marketing department, they're buying your HR policies and procedures. They're buying a business. They're not just buying the look, right? Because if we are good designers, 90% of what we do ends up not being design. I
right.
feel like, right? 10%
But
of it is
100% of
design,
the
which is
reason
the
why the
pretty
client
part.
calls it design.
Right, because of all of those things. And so you're
Yeah.
buying all of that. And I would say, too, what's your goal for scalability? If you
Mhm.
have a good team, if your sourcer knows your brand, the Nile Johnson brand or the Colorworks brand, like
Mhm.
our sourcer Di, she knows exactly what our clients want and tolerate
Cool.
and how far we can push, how far we can pull. We have one client will never do red. It's just not their jam. We could float the most beautiful Merlot and they'd be like, no, right? And so when you build a team that understands that, I feel like if I were to walk away or get hit by a bus tomorrow, she could pick up where I left off. And if I've done a good job of pushing myself out of my business, like my goal is to almost put myself out of a job where I, for lack of a better term, am a rubber stamper. I'm looking at it, the design, I'm saying yes, no, yes, no. In fact, we
Mhm.
just did this
Mhm.
on a design this morning. And I said, I'm great with all of it. I don't like the club chair. I don't like the poof. Here's the reason why. Here's a quick something that is more what I'm looking for. And that's it. It's a 5-second return, right? Like, and turnaround back to the sourcer. And I feel like that is what they're buying. Where I'm such a small part of the business at some point as a good CEO, I'm busy running the business that my designers can stand on their own 2 feet because we do have such a strong brand and they know what we should embody, the price point we should be coming in at, the quality of the products, the materials, all of that. It's a strength of brand. To your point, hopefully we built Nile up enough that he has the books and he has the products and he has that, right? Like how, whatever name you want to do that under your own, or whether it's a more generic name that's not as personal, getting there and scaling is about all of those things, 90% of which are not design. And that is, I
Yeah.
think, whether you put your name on it or somebody else's, that's the key to durability in this environment.
Mm.
I don't know. What do you think, Laurie?
I agree with that. I mean, I think that, looking at it objectively, I just think it's a shame. We do polls in the community. We have polled designers if they feel like they're on track for retirement savings, and we'll get like,
Oh,
90% say no. And then, do you think you could sell your business? And it's pretty much the same. Do you, those kinds of questions,
hmm,
I think indicate a broken system. And so
well said.
I am just thinking, how do we fix the broken system more than anything else? I mean, I'm not going to be tied to one answer or another. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying this is something we need to be thinking about because what we're doing right now isn't creating businesses that have succession plans. And I feel it's a shame. There are so many other complementary businesses that do have that system in place and that can be sold
Hmm,
as assets. And I'm wondering
hmm,
if part of the reason we don't feel that way is because we have such a large percentage of women-owned businesses in this industry, and how can we give people stability that they need for their own future? I don't like to see. I mean, I know designers who are single moms.
yep,
I mean,
yep.
I don't want to see someone not have money for retirement. I mean, maybe they're building a business that they can sell, and I'm hoping that they are, but that's a scary situation in my eyes. I mean, we shouldn't all be reliant on our spouse's 401k, you know?
Or their health care.
their
or they're
healthcare.
right. Like, or just think, well, I'm going to manage on Social Security. Like, I mean, we've always questioned whether that's going to be around, but in the last few weeks, we've really
Right.
questioned whether
We
that's
should
going to be
we should be
around.
questioning it. We should be
Oh,
questioning it. So, it's
right.
just the
I
realities of a situation where I don't want to see people giving their all to their art
I agree.
and not having anything to show for it at the end of their career. And that's the scary situation that I think we actually are in. And we need to think about how that can change to build us wealth and stability. I just met with a group of designers at Design Edge in Phoenix, and I was like, start your 401k now. The young designers,
Yep.
I'm like, you do it,
Yep.
go home now. One had a baby with her. I'm like, go do it. Go
Yep.
do it right now.
Is your greatest asset when it comes to your money.
Right.
You may be like,
Right.
I have
Time is your
$5
greatest.
to put in there. Put
Right.
it in there.
Put it in there.
Don't be defeated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get after it.
Yeah. And it's tough because, there's so many design business owners that I see, you have this, you had a good year, let's just say, and now you have a little bit of excess money and you're thinking, oh, I could get really great photography. I could hire a design coach. I could, they're
Yeah.
thinking how to invest back into the business. But often what gets left off the table is investing in themselves. And I just want to make sure that, I'm not saying coaching isn't worth it, because there are coaches that can change your
No.
business for sure. But those things too need to be on the table, investing in you.
They absolutely have to be. And I think too, setting your financial priorities are just as important as setting your business priorities. And sometimes I think we just muddy the water between those. But if you're saying, I need to put X number in my 401k for this to work this year, okay, then let's scaffold out of that. How many deals do we need to do? What is your P&L show? What is your profit margin right now? What are the areas you're making a great boatload of money in, and areas that you're just like, I had one client, she's like, yeah, I make 8% on window treatments. I'm like, why are we doing window treatments? I know why we're doing window treatments, but what are we doing wrong in window treatments? Like, we need to go back and reconfigure that.
Right.
Because
Especially
it is
because everyone makes a lot of money in window treatment. So that's a big
right.
mistake. Right. That should be a huge profit source.
Well, and it only went
Absolutely.
downhill from there. Like, I'll be really honest with you, because I was like, oh my gosh, we're making how much gross a year? And I call it jobbying. But I think I have a job, but in reality, it's a hobby, because I'm not making enough money. I'm not putting away for retirement. And my favorite is when I'm like, do you have any money in reserves for a rainy day when your business hits the skids, or there's an economic shift, or there's good old COVID, like, do you, and it's just like a blank stare. And I'm like, okay, I see you, and it's okay to be there. Well, now we need to get you out of there. Like, we need to get you out of there and figure out
I love
what
that
we're
you're
gonna
having
do.
the tough conversations, because I can guarantee you in our DMs, sometimes I'll have those conversations with designers because we have our questions of the day, and we get a lot of like very vulnerable conversations about designers that are doing well, or designers who are not doing well. And, sometimes having to let go of staff, or reduction of like closing the showroom, or closing their offices for a little bit, or even doing side work for some time. And it's always, it can be, and that's the other part of, I think, naming your business, your name too, is like, when that happens, how does that make you feel about you? How does that make you feel about who you are and the confidence you have in yourself? And, it's that mindset shift, I think, that
It's huge.
it can be hard for designers. And we're really actually going through a really tough time right now. There are a lot of designers, if you're listening, I'm sure there's some that are doing really great, and that's so fortunate, but there are some designers really, really hurting right now.
Yeah.
And it feels to some designers we're fully in recession, and that they're just not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and they don't know what to do. And if you're in a position where you don't have a partner, or you don't have someone to lean on in those situations, that's really scary. No one wants to be up at night freaking out about paying bills or paying staff.
Well, and it's hard. We keep waiting for interest rates to come down, especially in the residential sector. And it's just killing. To your point, there's a lot of people who think we're already in a recession. It's kind of
Yeah.
crucifying our industry in a lot of ways. And it's been high. I know it's historically low, yes, but it still feels high. When I remember when my husband and I got married, and we had a 1.99% interest rate for 5 years. I mean, that's like gone are those days, right? So how do you work
Well,
through that?
I
It's
just looked
interesting.
at a Redfin report. I
Mm,
was sending it to my because I kind of couldn't believe it. It was a Redfin report about how many hours, and this isn't design, but it was how many hours you needed to work in order to pay for rent as a minimum wage worker. And
uh,
in New Hampshire, the national average is 106 hours to pay for
oh,
an apartment. And in New Hampshire, it's 224 hours
like sleep isn't
needed to
an
be worked
option.
in a month. Yeah, yeah. Like
I mean,
sleep is
that's
not an option for some
insane.
people. Two full two, if you're, a husband and wife and you had a small apartment and you both were working two full-time jobs to be able to
Yeah.
afford an apartment in our state. And that's what people are struggling with. That's why there's not money left over for design. Right now, we're seeing that for the first time since 2008, we have a major rise in people that are behind in their mortgages
Yeah.
for the first time again.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
it's getting higher and higher. So those are things where design goes out the window when you can't pay your mortgage. So, but you to be fair, people are stuck in their houses, and sometimes the only way to make it work is through design. So, how do
Which is why
we?
I always
But
say, like, don't stop marketing. Like, the first thing I
right,
see designers do is whack off their arm and leg basically by ditching the marketing budget. And I'm like, no,
right,
no, it's the last thing that goes. Last thing that goes is marketing because eventually they are going to come back around. There will be a market
right.
shift. The interest rates
Sure,
will adjust. They will be there long enough that they cannot stand the situation there. Something will give at some point and you want to be
right.
top of consciousness. But that's hard to do when you're out here. And to your point, you're like, I live in Vermont. I'm working 220 hours to afford rent this month. Like, that's nuts.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of designers that are, I would say, working really, really, really hard not
I
to make
agree.
a money that they could probably have made in another career doing something differently. And so, but this is something that they felt compelled to do. So we want to make sure that there are systems in place and we are collectively coming up with answers to utilize to have the data to give people back a plan that works for them, that here's where your
Yeah.
profits are working for you and here's where your losses are not working for you and this is what makes sense. And that's why sometimes if you can't get there on your own and some of that digging it out and looking at that financial picture for yourself, your profits and losses and looking at the project, where did I lose money? Where did I make money? How could I be a little bit more effective? If you can't, pull back the layers and look at that, then you do sometimes need to invest in someone that can give you those straight answers directly and can say, this is where, and it sounds like that's what you do. You dig in.
I do. I love it. It's like my favorite
Yes.
thing, but I
Well,
want to
an
get down
MBA,
to the
you don't
nitty
get that if you
gritty.
don't care about that stuff. That side. You
For
care about
full
the profits and loss.
disclosure, I mean, like, I wouldn't say my accounting courses in my master's program were my favorite. Like, I had to retrain my brain to be okay with finances. And I
Right.
think it goes all the way back to my childhood. My dad left when I was 7. And my mom was a single mom of 3 kids, scraping together what she could to feed us and get us out the door and turn us into contributing members of society. And because of that, I was always fearful of money. It was just something that I was because there was never enough of it. So, of course, you're terrified of something there's never enough of, right? And I remember being in my undergraduate career and thinking, okay, I have got to figure this out. Like, I cannot move through life in any genre until I figure this out. And literally, the conversation, I remember sitting at my desk one day and being like, okay, every time I think about money, I'm going to log into my checking account and I'm going to go look and see what's there and look at my expenses. That was terrifying. That alone was utterly terrifying to me because as a kid, there was never money in the checking account, right? And I
Right.
knew that as a kid. I was afraid to ask for things. And so literally that's where I started until I could get over the phobia of logging into my own checking account to say what's there. And then I started going, okay, we're okay. And then it's literally like a Pavlovian response, right? But then it's a conditioning. And then I go, okay, we're okay, we're okay. So then you can start thinking at the next level, like, okay, I really see this money stuff as important. Like, okay, what do I want to do with that money? There is money there. What would be a wise way to spend it? How should we do that? And then you can start building from there, which led me into my MBA to say, okay, if I really want to run a business, I've got to figure out finances because otherwise my business is going to run me. And then
Right.
hiring, I wouldn't say even to this day, I don't look at finances and go, spa retreat, it's my favorite place to go. Like, no, but I do meet with one of our CPAs who does the day-to-day accounting every week. And I have a standing CPA meeting. In fact, I just had it this morning where we're going through it all. And we're saying, this is where this is at, this, I have a question about that, et cetera. And we're having a hierarchical conversation because I took a lot of little steps and it was super painful. And if you're sitting here and you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel every part of that. Like, I see you. It's really hard, especially if you're used to not having enough money. The last thing you want to do is hug that porcupine, right?
Right.
But until
Right.
you hug that porcupine, you can't ever build what you want to be and get through. It is a mindset shift, but you don't have to start big. Just log into your checking account. Start
I
looking at
think
your
that's a really
finances.
good first step, actually, to get comfortable with the numbers and see what's coming in and what's going out, and really look at what parts of it could be
Mhm.
changed. I remember a designer I was meeting. I was in Chicago this past month, and I had a designer who 2 months ago had messaged me about getting a design business loan, and she was
Mm.
wanted the loan because she what didn't have any projects coming in at all, and she had
Oh,
employees and wants to keep the business floating, until a new project comes in. She's got some marketing plans, and I just told her, I was like, I just don't feel comfortable with you getting a loan for this. Like, you don't know when I mean, that's like a big question about whether or not you would. And there was, we talked about a reduction of staff, and
mhm.
I won't say names or anything, but she went through she thought she was going to get the loan. She didn't end up getting the loan. So then she did have to do the reduction of staff, and it's really tough for her. You know what I mean? That there's tears. There's,
We've had
possibly
those calls.
closing the
Yep.
showroom, and it's just those are things that I think no business owner wants to go through, but when there are tough financial times and you have to cut back. Also not recognizing too that that doesn't mean game over either.
And you're
I
not
know
a
designers
failure.
who reinvented themselves a few times. You know what I mean? You're not there just because you're going through a really, really hard time. Could be a lawsuit, could be a, business shift. It could be a downsizing. We have to sometimes, think about every company we know. They have it too. You've
Oh
seen,
gosh,
major
Budweiser I
company,
mean, we watched them. I mean,
right?
look at what they went through.
Restructuring. Exactly. So just
I
thinking of it in terms of, separating yourself a little bit from the picture, and then not necessarily blaming yourself too much, and picking apart every mistake you ever did or any extra money you spent that
Mhm.
you could have kept, and why are you in this situation, and those kinds of things that can be really, really scary, and just kind of like step by step by step, what do you need to do to get yourself out of this? And sometimes it is really hard stuff, like letting go of people,
It
and
is.
you know, and letting go of your office space, and letting go of the expenses in order to regroup. And I remember in 2008 too, like a bunch of
Yeah.
designers that got into blogging and became really great. Some of them became amazing bloggers and sold the blogs for huge money and during that time frame. So it's like you never know what the hardship is going to bring into your life too, right?
100%. And if you don't, I think sometimes too, it's really sitting down and saying, I'm going to drive this rather than it driving me. And that
Right.
mindset shift of like, how do I not end up back here? Okay, this isn't my
Right.
finest hour. I call it the decorating your pit, right? I'm in the pit. I'm going to sit here for a minute. I'm going to acknowledge that this sucks. It's absolutely miserable. I'm going to hang up my curtains, put out my table in my pit, and just sit here and wallow, because we have to do that emotionally for a minute because we're human, right? We're going to shed our
Right.
tears. And then at some point, you got to build the ladder and you got to climb out
Right.
of the pit. And then we start figuring out, okay, how did we get here? Like, this is not a reflection on you again. However we got here, we got here. We can't remake the soup. It is what it is. Now, where do we set our intentionality going forward? What are we going to spend on the marketing? Do we have the proper insurances? Have I planned for my own rainy day and the rainy day of my business? Because everybody has a rainy day. That's just part of life. No matter, you can check every box, but you just got to make sure you've checked the rainy day box too, because it's going to happen.
Right.
Like, those are my favorite things to coach to. And it's not that we can completely bulletproof your business, but I think so oftentimes I have clients come to me and they're like, oh yeah, I love my business. We're by referral only. And they're proud
Mm-hmm.
of that. And I'm just like, wait. I know Nile is laughing. Yes, right, Nile? I'm like, by referral only is not a badge of honor. It's not like that. I love that old movie Hitch,
Yeah.
where he would hand out his card, right? And it was
Yeah.
by referral only. You do
Yeah.
not want that in your design business. You want to be known as the designer in your geographical region that is top of consciousness. Referral is great. It's lovely. It's a huge honor. And we are always humbled in our industry when we get it. But that cannot be your primary marketing channel. And so, yeah, I love not.
Well,
I wish y'all
I
could
think
see
it's always,
Nile and his nonverbals.
I think the other funny part of that is that we have polled designers. They will say that the number one way that they get new business is referrals. And then you'll poll
Yeah.
designers again and say, do you have an email list? And they say no. No. I'm
Right.
like, well,
Yeah.
how are you getting you're only getting their referral based
Where's
on
your nurture sequence?
if they
Yeah.
maybe remember you and or maybe
Or
use
they
you
see
again.
you out. Yeah.
They see you out and they think of you again. Like, you're not trying, if that's your number one way you're trying to get business, like, what are you
Mhm.
doing to keep those coming in? So I always think it's kind
Well
of
said.
strange. But
I
I would
agree
also
with
think
you.
that there are little things, if that's that's working for you, that's awesome. How can you rework that? Like, I always tell people with the email
That's
list,
a wise word.
keep it interesting and not sales. You're not trying to sell. These are people who are possible, they're referrals because they have already bought design services from you. Maybe recently. You don't necessarily need to sell them more design services, but they probably do think of you as someone who has a particular sense of taste and style and would love information from you. And that alone will keep you top of mind. That alone, like, it could be like you could create a fun summer playlist or weekend getaways in your area, or cool restaurants to go to that have beautiful interiors, or cool new little deli shops to go to that are very, that have like little treats that you'd
Mhm.
want your clients to experience, things that will also keep you top of mind but feel thoughtful and feel that are interesting, that I would want to click on if someone sent me an
Totally.
email that was about my area and had really interesting information about things to do, rather than,
Yeah,
10 colors
totally.
for spring.
We've seen all the colors for spring. I mean, Carolyn
10
Chambers, the
colors for spring.
cookbook author, does a great job at this. Like at
Yeah.
Christmas, she's like, I love this Target ornament. And it's a
Yeah.
butter. It's a cube of butter ornament. Do you know that $5 ornament sold out at Target by the time I clicked on her email? I was like, oh my gosh, it's the best ever. Because my 8-year-old will just straight up eat the butter stick. I'm just chalking it up to her Dutch heritage. But I was like, what do you mean it's already got things like that though? Like, I'm still remembering that email that she sent out in December, and it is April.
Right. And it was the
Yeah.
first thing you thought of because it was actually
100%.
useful and interesting and something that but was still tied to what she did,
Mhm.
so it doesn't have to be, you can twist it to aesthetics and design. Could be like if I'm in New Hampshire, it might be like 5 really cute Airbnbs in the Cape or in Nantucket,
Yes.
like that people would want to get to
Yes.
weekend
I want
getaways
to
or
go.
things like that, So, I mean, things that your clients potentially would want to be experiencing, because
and
you're a local crew. You know what they want to do. No one
find
should
your
know that more
local
than you.
B2B partners too. You're right. No one
Right.
should know that more than you. And no one should know your B2B partners more than you. Go after your B2B partners. And if you're asking what's B2B, that's your business
Absolutely.
to business, right? What are you doing to love on those realtors that are going
Right.
after the clients that you have? Are you giving them 3 free? I love 3 free. And this, I'm stealing this from Rebecca Hay, who's great, by the way, out of Canada. But she's like, yeah, give them 3 complimentary consultations and say to the realtor, now look, I know you're going to close some good deals this year. I want you to save these consultations for those clients that are going to be the million plus or going to be at this price point. And then I want you to give this to them. Not only does it make the realtor look really good because they have an industry connection and this consultation is worth something, but now all of a sudden I have direct access. I see Nile and his pencil over here. Yeah. Now I have direct access to that client and I've already been, it's not a cold lead, it's a warm lead because it's coming from the realtor, right? And it's someone they trust in the market. So take those B2B partnerships and look at them. Who's doing the volume of luxury sales in your market? Go find them, take them to lunch, sit in front of your national, your regional association of realtors. Figure out who are the handy people that are working in the bougie homes that show up in their painter whites and are doing the building those relationships. Figure out where your people are volunteering. I guarantee you they're volunteering. Well, I can't afford season tickets to the opera. Girl, I hear you. Go figure out they have a foundation. And I guarantee that that foundation, the decision makers and people you want to work with are working at that foundation and they would love a good volunteer to come alongside them. So figure out where those people you want are at. And this is free. This is your time, which arguably is the most valuable asset, but it is free in the sense you get to walk in the door and have access and share similar interests.
Right.
And obviously make it sincere. What interests you? All of those good things. But things like that I think we just often overlook as designers, but as part of really building your brand and being in the community, to your point, Laurie, top of consciousness again.
Right. Yeah.
I have this great designer. In fact, I see her, once a month when we are at this community, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Let me ask her if she'd take on your project. I know it's a little smaller probably than she normally does. Great. Now all of a sudden I have a gateway into that home, right?
Right. Right. I tell designers that a lot. Nile, we talk about, like, all of the businesses that also service the luxury clients in your area.
Yep.
The local steakhouse, the local
Yeah.
Mercedes dealership, the local country club, the day school,
Yeah.
figuring out ways in which you can network in those communities and build reciprocal relationships with people that are also servicing the luxury market. I mean, that's the great thing about being a local business is you can kind of drill it down and use
Very
even
much so.
ChatGPT to give you those lists. And you're not trying to get a keyword that's like blue interior design. You're just trying to get your own local area. I mean, that
Yeah.
like really narrows it down. I mean, if you're in, like where you are, Nile, is like what, the mushroom capital of the world.
Oh, yeah.
That is so random.
Oh my God.
It is so random.
And I hate
I'm
mushrooms.
gonna dial
People that
out
literally
about
come for like the Kennett Square is the mushroom capital of the world.
Yeah.
He doesn't like mushrooms.
I hate them.
What is the irony of that?
Oh my God.
Oh, that's hilarious. Are you guys also like a truffle juggernaut too? If you're in the
But see,
mushroom
that's the
department?
thing. But that's the thing. I love truffle oil. Isn't that weird?
You and me both.
I love, like truffle fry. I want to own everything. Truffle
Truffle
fries,
popcorn, you
truffle
done
mash,
that?
truffle popcorn, truffle mac.
Ooh.
So, but I hate mushrooms. It's weird. It's strange. Yeah. But it's out.
I'm opposite. I don't like truffle oil, but I like mushroom.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Opposite.
oh. No,
Kyle
I'm
is
take the
not
truffle
having
oil,
it.
not.
Oh, my
No,
favorite.
thank
The
you.
mushroom truffle pizzas. Oh,
that does
I
sound
know.
good.
I will tell you, with a good mozzarella and a wood-fired crust, y'all, I should just be morbidly obese because I just love food. And that to me is just like that and a good glass of red wine. And that is just my happy place. And it checks like
yeah.
every
man.
box of happiness.
Mm.
But that's not why we're here.
No.
No, I love checking those boxes. It's my favorite thing. So how do you guide? I'll let Nile go. Yeah.
No. It's just a quick question because I was going to ask, and I think you touched on it, Laurie. I was going to say, for people who don't know how to find out who their luxury B2B who their other luxury colleagues are, or the B2B comparison for them in the luxury sector are. How would they find that out? And I think you said Chat GPT would be a good way to drill that down, right?
Well, I would research based on that, like who are the luxury real estate agents, architects, builders.
Okay.
Mm.
You
Because
know,
I'm
those
sure
are good
that's a question
partners.
that people would have. Like, where do I even start? How do I even know who a luxury, you know, realtor is? How do I
How
even
I
know
I
who?
first
Mm.
would I would first start I always tell designers when I'm talking to them, like, when young designers are like, "How do I figure out my service area?" I'm like, "Where are you willing to travel?"
Yeah.
Figure out that area, and then where in that area
Mm.
has the kind of homes that you want to be marketing toward. I mean, where are the $1 million plus houses in that
Yeah.
area?
Every
And
area
you
has
really
a
can
little
look
bit
at
of
that
luxury
based
in
on,
it.
like,
Yeah.
real estate app maps too, like which areas, and then even drilling that down to neighborhood, and then those are your first blog posts are based on those areas, and best interior designer in that area.
Gotcha.
Yep.
This area, and then you put yourself on the top of the list. You put 10 designers, but you're the number one in that list because you just conquered that keyword phrase.
It's brilliant. I think that's so smart. And don't
Yeah.
be afraid to ask your other B2B partners. Ask the realtors, okay, your clients, when you do closing gifts, what steakhouse are you sending them to? What are
Right.
you doing? You're going to find a bunch of other industry partners just based on closing gifts. Or what do you find are some of your clients' favorite places to go? Where are they hanging out? What is the happening nonprofit that I am not seeing in town? And every town has one or two, and it's so random sometimes. And you're like, wait, what? But for whatever reason, that is the spot. Sometimes it's as simple
Right.
as it is the clubhouse pool at the country club. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, you know how many of those moms are hanging out at that clubhouse pool every summer because, oh my gosh, we're missing 12 weeks of childcare. Thank you, summer. Right. And they are all down there having a cocktail. And that is where business is getting done. They are figuring out their projects for when kids go back to school. They're figuring out what they want to accomplish next. Like, there's so much that happens. They're sharing. Oh, girl, have I got a facialist for you? This is the conversation. And you want to be that provider that gets put in front of the friend group at the pool. There's so many different ways to do it. I love your keyword. I love being at the top of the list for that reason. That's a great tip, Laurie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really, I just think that you're so spot on and really diving in. And one of the things that you're saying over and over again is being in the conversation, not just like
Mhm.
separated
Yeah.
from the conversation.
Yeah.
So not just liking the person's post on Instagram or sending them an email, but actually being there, actually
Oh,
somehow getting involved.
the power of presence. And when you are confined to a geographical zone, which is really a blessing because we're nationwide, when you have an area to hang out in that area. I mean, show up for all the random things. You never know what you're going to get. And sometimes it may seem like the most wild fishing trip, and you might never know what you leave with just because you had the power
Right.
to show up. I think the idea in a social media world is we often think, well, I've hung out my shingle, I post to Instagram, someone's coming. And an Instagram post is so quiet compared to the power of you showing up and listening to someone's design challenge or giving them a complimentary consultation or volunteering and being a part of something. And one thing I always love too is because we are a luxury service, that's what we provide, right? There's other ways to give back. And I think that's so important too. I have so many designers that say, but I want to do something really good, like with design. Like, I want to do more than just design the million plus, or I want to do more than, like, I want to give back to my community. That's why I love the volunteering part, because you can go and show up and give back. And those foundations will provide the scholarships. They'll subsidize X, Y, and Z for kids who need it. Go find those areas. And that's also a way where you can say, I'm not just appealing to that high-end residential client. I'm finding a way to make a difference in my community. And that to me is the most fulfilling thing of what we do. Like, even though we're a
Oh,
national
absolutely.
firm, any dents, dings, hicks, leftovers, we give back. We will intentionally find a domestic violence shelter in every community we work in. And we give all of that to them on behalf of the client. And it's the best thing in the world because it's nice things, right? And maybe they've never had that. And so I think
Right.
when you can find that, and we've made some amazing partnerships out of that, we're not looking at them to do business. That's just being a good neighbor and doing wise business. But especially in a confined geographical zone, those people, like, word will spread. Things will happen.
Yeah.
It will come full
It's,
circle for you. It just does.
I mean, this is a little uglier, but I mean, it is also a tax write-off for your client to do that. And
Totally
you should do
fair.
that. But
Yep.
absolutely, we have a families in transition place here, and we've had
Mm,
designers come in and design some of the spaces even in a, sometimes
yeah.
it's like that space planning stuff
Yep.
that makes such a huge difference. And my daughter used to work for she got involved in student council when she was a young
Mm,
high schooler, and she worked in the shelter at food servicing in the mornings, early, early. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
mm.
She had to go over
Oh,
there, and she
yeah.
worked
I'm with Nile.
for like until 8 or 9, and they
Wow.
served breakfast very early. And she
That's
she
impressive.
recognized that they didn't have blueberries like ever fresh. They like made pancakes all the time because
Mm,
it's an instant mix. So she
sure.
had a friend who worked in a blueberry farm, and she was able to like get a bunch of the leftover, like the berries that were kind of going to
Mm,
go soon, and get them to start bringing the blueberries into the shelter. And they started doing blueberry pancakes and just
I
like these
love
little
this.
things you can do that would make your community a little bit better. And, sometimes those stories don't get spread out, but they're so important, because they're just making people's lives a little bit sweeter, nicer. Now, you do a designer CEO
Absolutely.
method that surprises people when they apply it. Tell us a little bit about that method. I don't want to leave without that getting out there because it's so cool.
Yeah, no. That is my favorite thing, is helping them become the CEO of their brand,
Which I
strictly
definitely
because
think you should trademark, because that
yep.
is I think that is a cool thing. Like to have specific coaching that helps someone become the CEO of their brand. That's awesome.
That's a really interesting point of feedback. This is why you show up, because now I'm going to walk away with a huge nugget today, thanks to
Yeah.
Laurie. Yeah, I think because owning it, it's really about owning it. And one thing I sign off
Really.
every single podcast with is your business should be working for you, not you working for it. And I think
Ooh,
that is so incredibly powerful. When you run your business instead of letting it run you, all of a sudden you're in a position to make better, more confident decisions and not find yourself decorating that pit and hanging out the curtains at the end of the day.
right.
It's one of the most pivotal things I think that we teach designers is how to CEO. How do you build a company culture? How do you build a brand? How do you get your finances in order? What is your first process? Do I have a
Right.
process? You do if you're in business, but like your culture, it may just be out of attrition or necessity. It may not have intentionality, but it's going to affect your
Cool.
business in every single way.
Yeah. Now is that also that sounds a lot like systems and operations, but does it also a mindset set shift for those designers? Do they have to separate themselves emotionally from the decision making a little bit?
A little bit. You're onto it. I think so. I mean, there's decisions you have to do. And Nile, I'm sure, would say the same thing. There's things you have to do that are wise that are not always easy. I think it's a lot easier to
Right.
envision becoming the CEO and to say, I'm putting on my CEO hat. Today, I'm not designing. Today, I'm
Okay.
CEOing.
Okay.
And this is a different mindset. This is what is the right thing to do for the business? What is the right thing to do for the brand? What are we repping ourselves appropriately? What is the right thing to do with our pricing? What is the right thing to do with our corporate social responsibility? Like we were just talking about, those give backs is the easy vernacular for that. It's saying I'm stepping out of design today and I'm putting on the CEO hat. And maybe that's an hour you plan every day where you're going to say, I'm not designing. I'm not thinking about where is that tile and oh, good gosh, did that leave Italy because summer's coming? And if it didn't make it out, it's not coming. It's a whole different mindset. It's one of my favorite things to teach because that is when you begin the shift of having your business work for you.
Now, is that like future building? Is that part of that process where you are the CEO role usually is 5 years in the future? What is my business going to be 5 years
Yeah.
in the future?
Yep.
And it delegating the
Yep.
responsibilities along the way.
Yep.
I
It's
find that
100%
just so
that.
fascinating. I really think I find that fascinating because I think that is a little catch for a lot of designers. I mean, they have
Absolutely. We're
being a
trying to survive
designer.
today.
Yeah. And that's where we get stuck. I think, Nile,
Mhm.
wouldn't you agree? Like, that's where people get stuck because the today feels like it's the most emergency thing. So I don't feel like I can stop the today of it all to think about
Yeah.
5 years. It feels frivolous to do that,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
you
When we
know?
don't
And
do that, though, what happens is we find ourselves 5 years down the road going, how did I get here?
that's right.
Just
Yeah.
maybe
Right.
feeling today listening to this show, right? Like, how did I
Right.
get here? I had a great list of clients. I was making great money during COVID. And now all of a sudden
Right.
I'm here. And it isn't a market slowdown, it's a market full tilt retail stop. And I have zero
Right.
people in my pipeline, right? When you put on your CEO hat and you can figure out your goals and where you want to be 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year from now, and then we start tying finances to that, then we start building goals into those finances of what numbers do I need to hit in order to meet my goals. It's a scaffold. It doesn't have to be scary. Like I said, log into your checking account, start there, right? But when you start doing that at the end of the 5 years, you may not be at 100% of where you wanted to be, but you're going to be at 90% of where you wanted to be. And that, I can tell you right now, friends, is going to feel a hell of a lot better than where you are today. And I
Right.
get that setting goals is scary because it's like, what if I don't hit them? But good goals, smart goals, right, are that they're measurable, they're succinct. Like there's all these ways to go through a goal to bring it to life, where if you're doing what you need to be doing and creating that goal and you're scaffolding out and it's not just a pipe dream, because a goal without a plan is a pipe dream, you can
Right.
find yourself getting there. And then also in there, you're planning for, again, that rainy day. It's going to happen. So let's plan for it with the idea that I never want to see anybody lay someone off. But I just had a coaching client this week who is paying herself less every year than her lowest paid employee. We're not in
Yeah.
business. That
Yeah.
is not where we want to be. Like that is a huge problem. And we're going to have
You
to
know,
unpack those books.
absolutely. And I want you to listen when you're listening to her say that. I want you to say, really, really take that in because it's not always, it's sometimes the designer you respect out there. Sometimes that's the designer. I mean, I know designers who are A-list designers and
Yes, that.
getting all the accolades, and you would not suspect. You think they can't. And that's a lot of what we do in this industry is like we're always envying that other business. And sometimes I think that, we're like, even this person might be slow. And we're like, of course. I mean, it is a bad economy right now for a lot of people. I mean, they might be slow too, just because they're at High Point or they're getting an award or they have a book deal or they have this doesn't mean that there's really financial success happening for every designer. And there could be systems in place that could make it better. So I also think
Yeah.
that comparison thing that we
Oh, don't
often
do
find
that.
ourselves doing. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, nobody ever compared and walked away feeling better about themselves. Can I just say that unequivocally? It doesn't matter how beautiful or how talented or how rich, or there is always another level, people. And nobody
Yes.
ever went and looked down the road and took a peek and went, well, now I sure feel better about myself, right? Like, that's just not how we're
Sure.
hardwired as humans. And so, like, I love what Mel Robbins just wrote in her book, Let Them. Like,
Yeah.
have you guys read that yet? It's
I'm
so
reading
good.
it now. Yeah. I'm reading it
Yes.
now.
Oh, it's so good. And she's like, if you are jealous of the person who has the killer Instagram account, stop scrolling through their Instagram and get busy figuring out how you're going to build yours.
Right.
I
Yes.
love
So
her.
true. If we took all the time we spend comparing, and it's so easy because of social media and because of the grandeur of what we create on social media, right? Like, but if we
Right.
took that time back and reclaimed it and said, I know my client, I know their wants, I know their needs, I know their preferred communication channel. We need those three, right? And I'm
Yeah.
going to go after getting to them, all of a sudden, once again, we're not sitting here feeling bad about ourselves. We're busy meeting the needs of someone else. Well, this is starting to change our mindset, our feelings, our business, our brand, our empowerment about being a CEO in a very significant way.
That is huge.
That
That
is
is
huge.
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 And
That is
I mean,
huge.
that's a big, big shift. And it feels attainable. That's the thing I love about that, is that that feels like a step in the right direction. And you're going to get there if you just are
You
following
are.
these simple steps. So
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that we put all of our designers onto you and absolutely have
Aw,
all the links to
you're
reach out,
kind.
and we'll put you in our email list, and which we got 111,000 hits last week. Yay, yay, yay.
Lori, you're crushing it. Oh, you
We're
guys are doing
crushing it.
amazing things. Crushing it. That makes me so
Yeah.
happy. This is why it's such
We
a
love it.
privilege to come on
So
your show and
exciting.
be a part of it.
Yeah, our
That's
email
just
list is
awesome.
a new thing. So we've only been really doing it for 2 years. So we've been like slowly growing every month. We're very excited about the data. I'm a big data person, so very, very
Me
thrilling.
too.
But I would love to make sure you come back sometime too, because I had
Aw.
like 10, 20 more questions I could have asked you.
Let's do it again. Well, I can't wait to have you on my show and get to ask you all about
Yay.
tariffs, because that's one of those things
Oh,
that you're like, I
goodness.
didn't see that coming, and now what? You know,
Oh, goodness.
how do I do
Oh,
that?
goodness.
How do I explain
We've been
to my
talking
client?
about
I
it
don't
quite
get
a
it.
bit. I have a lot to say.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to turn the
Yay.
tables. And thank you for having me on. It's such a privilege.
Absolutely wonderful.
And
And we'll make sure everyone can find you. Thank you.
thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.